Hi everyone, we're going to do Chapter 2, Lesson 3, the first half. We're going to be talking today about irregular verbs, our first one, but before we talk about that, I want to talk about regular verbs. So this should definitely feel like a review here. So our first set of regular verbs that we've talked about in class are the ones that we call ER verbs. The ER verbs happen when you have taken an infinitive, right, like chercher, and you see that it has that ER at the end. What we're going to do is you're going to take off that ER from it, right? And then you're going to add certain endings that make sense and that are conjugated correctly with the subject. So your je ending is E, your tu ending is ES, your il, elle, on ending is E, your nous ending is ONS, vous is easy, and il, elle plural go with ENT. So that big, large group of regular verbs that we've talked about, they all follow the same rule. That's what makes them regular. Now, the one that we're going to be talking about today is irregular, which is to say that it doesn't follow this rule, and it doesn't really follow any other rule like any other verb. It's just kind of out there, and it's very different. So let's look over here on page 49, and I've already kind of marked this up for you guys. The verb here is être, okay? We see our infinitive right here, être, okay? And I made it a little bit bigger here above it just so you could really focus on seeing that circonflexe above the E. So that is our infinitive. That's our very general form, right? Kind of like chercher with an ER. But the conjugations for it, you'll see they don't follow that rule of EESE, ONSEZ, ENT. They follow something completely different. So let's go through these first. We have je suis. Say that with me. Je suis. Tu es. Tu es. Il est. Il est. Nous sommes. Nous sommes. Vous êtes. Vous êtes. Ils sont. Ils sont. So let me go through those slowly and explain a little bit about pronunciation here. For je suis, you'll notice that final S is silent. So it's there, but I marked it in little dotted lines to remind you that you don't say that final consonant. Je suis. Same thing for tu es, the S is silent. And il, elle, on, with A, the S and the T are silent. Nous sommes, the S is silent at the end, and it sounds like some over on the right here. Sum as in to sum up two numbers, to add them together. Vous êtes, the final E is silent. Il or elle, sont, the final T is silent, and the N is nasally. And then one last thing is that on the vous form, you have this little liaison happening here so that your S of vous sounds like a Z. Vous êtes. Okay? So going back to meaning for these guys, if I can correctly get to my place here, sorry. The meaning here, remember, is that you're conjugating these. So from your infinitive être, which means to be, which might seem familiar to those of you who have done maybe some Spanish as the verb estar, that might remind you that there used to be an S right here, and that's why it became that circonflexe. But the meaning of this, of course, when you conjugate it is irregular in English as it is in French. So a regular verb in English would sound like I ski, you ski, he skis, we ski, y'all ski, they ski. In French, your regulars would be the EESE, ONSEZ, ENT. So here we are with an irregular not only in English as well as in French. So we've got I am, you are, he, she, or one is, we are, you, formal, singular, or plural, informal. You are, they are. Okay? I also talked about the fact that that the il or an elle here can also mean it, which is weird because we've been using them mostly for people, but because objects in French have a gender, you can use il for an it, it's like an inanimate object that happens to be masculine, and elle can be an inanimate feminine object as well. There also is another way to say it is, and we've actually talked about this one already, right? We've talked about c'est. So I'm going to talk more about c'est. It's important that you memorize this whole conjugation though. So before we move on to talking about c'est, I want you to do this exercise by yourself, and then we're going to have you share it with partners in class. So en examen, complete the following dialogue between Fabrice and Clarisse using the correct forms of the verb être. Remember that your subjects, such as ces livres, tu, le professeur, vous, nous, and je, not all of them are going to look like that table the table of the verb, up above, like je and tu and il, elle, on, right? Sometimes they're going to be a full subject that isn't just a pronoun, like ces livres and le professeur. So you have to remember what that is like. Is it like you? Is it like me? Is it like an it? Is it like a plural they or something like that? So you've got to go back and kind of figure out what that means. So let's look at the first one. We have Fabrice, he's speaking, and he goes, ces livres blank difficile. Ces livres is my subject, and so I think to myself, okay, which subject is that trying to be? Ces livres means these books. Am I, je, the books? No. Are you the books? No. Is he, she, it, or one the books? No, because books are plural. So it can't be anything in that first column of je, tu, il, elle, nous. I'm sorry, il, elle, on. On the plural side, nous would be including me. So am I included in the books? No. Are you, vous, included in the books? No. Then we're left with il and elle plural, they, the books. So even though these aren't people, it would be like doing il plural. Therefore, I'm going to use sont. The rest of these, I'm hoping, like I said, that you guys can take a moment, fill those out in your own notes so that you can quickly share them with a partner. You do not have to do that second part of the exercise with the key S, which I crossed out. Excellent. So going back to what I was saying is that this form of c'est that we've actually already seen, right? We've seen this in our question, qu'est-ce que c'est, right? Qu'est-ce que c'est, which when we break it down, the que part means what. Est-ce que doesn't really mean much of anything. Literally it means is it that. But we would never say that in English. So all it just signifies is that it's a question coming up. And then you have a subject and a verb here. My subject is ce, and my verb is est. So this is actually the first time that we've actually talked about être formally, even though you already actually knew this expression. Of course, you answer it with c'est un or c'est une, like c'est un livre, c'est un stylo, c'est une chaise, c'est une étudiante. And we know that that means it is. So like I said, we've already talked briefly about that, which is nice. The next thing is that we use c'est, but it is a singular form, right? C'est, because the ce there, right, is it. Usually that's singular, and you can definitely tell that it's singular because the a is singular. And so the thing that follows is a singular item, right? Un livre or c'est une étudiante. Those are singular. But it is possible that I could ask the same question, the qu'est-ce que c'est question, and I would have to answer it with a multiple thing, with a plural thing. So if I held up 5 pens and I said, qu'est-ce que c'est? You could still then answer with that same structure, but you've got to turn it into plural. So the way that we turn it into plural, we've already talked about some pluralizing briefly already, right? We would turn an article into a different article for plural, and we would add something on the end usually, and that is what you're going to do. So we've already talked about un and une becoming des and adding s's, but the other thing is that your actual subject and verb also needs to become plural. So the plural of c'est is ce sont. Ce sont des livres. Ce sont des étudiantes. So kind of just bringing that home, c'est becomes ce sont. See if I can just back up a little bit here and all the highlighting. Keep my notes clean for you guys. Okay. Then the next thing is talking about what is the difference here really between using c'est, like why did we use c'est as opposed to il or elle if both can mean it, right? Il can be an it for a masculine object, elle can be it for a feminine object, and ce can also be it. So what's the difference? The difference is really in structure. So if we have c'est, we've already seen that it is always being followed by an article and a noun, like c'est un livre. Okay? I could also do this with a person, c'est un professeur, or c'est une étudiante. But in any case, I'm always using c'est plus an article and then a noun. On the opposite side, il and elle is not going to get followed with an article and a noun. It's going to get followed with an adjective. An adjective is a describing word, like color, nationality, personality traits, physical traits, all sorts of things like that. These are describing words. So instead of using a describing word, or instead of using an article and a noun here, I've used a describing word. I've used américain as an adjective, right? He is American. Elle est américaine. She is American. And you'll notice that I have this lowercase letter a in both cases because it's an adjective, as opposed to over here, I had an uppercase a because this is a noun. Okay, so it goes back to our lesson on nationalities, between the difference between adjectives and nouns and how those are treated. I did want to point out the fact that you will have a little liaison here. Il est américain, and I'll pronounce that T. Elle est américaine, and I'll pronounce that T. Okay, I will pronounce the N here because of my final E. Same thing here. C'est un and c'est une. Américain, américaine. So we're going to do an exercise with that over here. Exercise B, deux étudiants africains à Paris. Tell about these people by completing the descriptions with ce apostrophe or il or elle. So we know that after every single blank, I'm going to have a conjugated form of être, right? I'm always going to have a. So what I need to do is I need to figure out, okay, is the thing after the a, is it an adjective? Oops. Is it an adjective, in which case I'm using il, elle? Or is it an article noun, in which case I'm using c'est? So let's look at this. Voici Fatima. Blank est a Camerounaise. And I look at Camerounaise and I say, okay, is this an adjective or is it an article noun? It's clear to me that it's an adjective because I have a lowercase letter and I don't have any article here in between this, okay? So because I don't have un or une there, I know that I'm using an adjective, plus I've got the lowercase, so I'm going to have to use il and elle, and then I have to decide, okay, well, which one do I use, il or elle? I look at Camerounaise and I see that it's feminine, and I might also know that Fatima is a feminine name, so therefore I'm going to use elle. The next one, blank est étudiante en philosophie. Same idea. What I've got to do is look at my blank, then I have some form of être, a, and then I have what? An adjective or an article and a noun. You might think, okay, student, of course that's a noun. I know what a noun is. It's a person, place, or thing, and a student is a person. But in fact, this case, the French don't see it that way. They would consider this to be an adjective. And I know that because right here, once again, I don't have, between être and étudiante, I don't have that un or une. So therefore, it's being my adjective, and I'm going to use, once again, elle, because we're still talking about Fatima. Next one, blank est une personne sociable et dynamique. After my verb est, what do I have? Do I have an adjective or do I have an article and a noun? I have an article right here, and I have a noun right here. So therefore, I'm going to use C apostrophe for c'est. It doesn't matter that this is a masculine or feminine person. C'est works for both. So I'm going to let you guys try to fill out the rest of that exercise on your own, and then you will share with a partner. So take the time to write down some notes for that. Okay. So more about this sort of using adjectives versus nouns, and how student, for example, is considered an adjective, which is very strange for us as Anglophones. But I did want to kind of give some examples, some other examples of when you're using être. And I'm going to use just je suis because it's, of course, our most common one, because most of the time we're talking about ourselves, unfortunately. You can follow it with a bunch of different things, right? So my first one was just to say je suis, and then you can give your name. So for me, I would say je suis Lauriel. I can also give my nationality. Notice that it's lowercase and it's an adjective. I could also give my profession. Je suis professeur. It's also lowercase. You guys, you would consider étudiant to be your profession, or étudiante, but it would still be considered an adjective. You can talk about religion or philosophical followings. You can talk about roles in your life, like je suis maman. That's I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a woman. Okay, so any sort of relationship here. Notice here that your un and une do not go here, right? We're not going to put those in this space right here. The one exception is you might want to put it here only because, I don't know, I guess it's just sort of like somewhat common usage, but you don't need it. So I would just say, for you guys, for simplicity's sake, I would just pretend like, okay, yep, with être, as long as I'm using je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, and il, elle, plural, I don't want to use il or elle at all. Okay? As opposed to c'est. C'est will use un or une. So you can use être for all sorts of things, nationality, profession, religion, relations, but a ton of other things like physique and personality and a ton of other things. What I would like you to do is be able to do two exercises. The first one is going to be this one, which is really just talking about yourself. Okay, like I said, we use je suis quite a bit. You have a lot of être here. Je suis l'ami, la da da. So you can see that L apostrophe there as being an example of one time where as relationships, you can use it as L. You can use le, la. And here's another one. But otherwise, you're not using that. So those are all with être. And then, of course, you've got some other ones like je m'appelle, that's a different verb, j'habite, and j'aime. So hopefully you feel pretty good about using these verbs. They should seem familiar to you. And this is kind of how we start getting into writing short paragraphs in French. I know we have a tendency as adult learners to want to make our sentences and make our paragraphs very complex and to represent just an exact translation of what we're trying to say in English. But I'm going to very overtly try to discourage you from doing that and just focus on getting the simple structures down first. And then as you learn more French, that's when you can get a little bit more flowery with your language, more metaphorical, more complex structures. But for now, it's best to just stay really, really simple and straightforward so that you master the basic skills and can add on to it from there. So I'm going to have you write a short paragraph for yourself and share it with your partner. And then I also want you to be able to ask a question to your partner. So instead of using je suis, right, I am, if you want to ask your partner something, like maybe you want to ask them, are they a student? Are they American? Are they, you want to ask a bunch of questions. You should be able to say this question with them, tu es, and then you ask them, you give a suggestion right here, like tu es américain, right? Or tu es étudiant, something like that. So I'd like you to ask the question, and then you and your partner, obviously, will exchange your answers that are coming from that paragraph that you've written before. The other thing here is that you heard it when I said tu es étudiant or tu es américain. You will say that little liaison here when your word here starts with a vowel. And then I'd like you to describe one or two people in your life. Could be a parent, could be a friend, I don't know, could be a dog, I'm not sure, could be a famous person. Describe them in third person. So now you're doing il, elle, il est, and describe their nationality, their profession, etc. Whatever you guys want to kind of add in there, okay? So I think that you guys are all set. I hope that this video was helpful, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.